Greetings and salutations. My name is Scott Power. Some of you may know me as Sourdough, the host of the podcast Not Real Art, where we cover creative culture and the artists who drive it. First of all, I want to thank the city of Santa Clarita for creating this important video series for artists and for asking me to participate. It's an honor, and I'm grateful for the chance to share with you today. In this video, I will share with you some ideas about how I think artists can improve the art world. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my journey. I've worked professionally in the creative arts for 30 years, but I am not an artist. I think of myself as a creative explorer because for me, life itself is the ultimate expression of creativity, and I followed the muses wherever they wanted me to go. My creative journey started with music because I come from a musical family. Growing up, I studied jazz and classical music, playing alto, sax at a pretty high level. I won some awards and accolades. As a teenager, my musical heroes were Monk, Miles, Bird, and Train. I grew up outside Chicago, so blues music was huge for me too. As a teenager, I used to sneak into blues clubs to hear legends like Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, and Otis Rush. My greatest joy in life has always come from three things: being creative, working with creative people, and being outside in nature. In 1994, I got my bachelor's degree in graphic design from Columbia College Chicago. After graduating, I worked at branding and design agencies for clients like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola. I helped Target launch its Wine Cube, Boston Beer Company launch Sam Adams Light, Kaiser Permanente with its Thrive campaign, and Pantone launch its new colors. When it comes to my life and work, my creative spirit has kept me productive. My photography, illustration, and writing have been published. I've launched 3 of my own products into retail. I produced a couple of records and managed a rock band. I've helped visual artists with their careers and curated gallery exhibitions. I built a log cabin near the Arctic Circle, helped start a medical NGO in Haiti, complete 2 Ironman triathlons, got married, and adopted my children. Life has been tough, though. I won't share details, but let me just say that I'm really grateful for the adversity because it made me who I am. There's no doubt that the tough times and failures taught me way more than any success. Now, enough about me. Let's talk about you. This artist video series is called New Heights. And as I pondered what kind of knowledge, insight, tips, do's or don'ts I might share to help you achieve new heights in your career and or practice, I simply couldn't get my mind off the elephant in the room, COVID-19. COVID-19 has rocked our world. It has broken down our ability to socialize, which is a cornerstone of our economy. The art world has been hit especially hard. Many art galleries will close and never open again. Some art fairs will not return, and independent artists will find it even more difficult to sell their art as people struggle financially and have less disposable income. Yet, in tragedy, there is hope and opportunity if we choose to look for it. We can learn from the tragedy and grow. We can rebuild a better way of doing things if we want to. As tough as our current situation is for visual artists, I truly believe it creates an opportunity for visual artists to rethink how to conduct their business and how to create a better art world in the process, one where artists can thrive rather than struggle. But change is hard, and changing culture is even harder. It all starts with you and me because no one is going to do it for us. We must advocate for ourselves. We must be the change we want to see. Listen, if some entrepreneurs can start Uber and disrupt and improve the transportation industry, and Airbnb can disrupt and improve the hospitality industry, and Netflix can disrupt and improve the entertainment business, I truly believe artists can disrupt and improve the art world. Now, in the spirit of sowing the seeds of change and trying to inspire you, I'd like to share a new strategy I think artists can use to disrupt and improve the art world and rise to new heights. But before I dive in, I want to set the stage for what I want to share. I believe, as many others do, the fundamental purpose and primary function of artists in our world is as a kind of spiritual seer. And I also believe in art's power to be a gateway and connect us to the transcendent and eternal. At the same time, it's this aura of mysticism surrounding artists and art making that has allowed the notion of the starving artist to become tolerated, accepted, and even romanticized by gallerists and patrons and artists too. Personally, I've never found the notion of anyone starving to be romantic. And as far as I'm concerned, starving should not be an occupational hazard for anyone. To make matters worse, the contemporary art market has evolved into a functionally inefficient, arbitrary, and irrational system of exchange with significant underutilized capacity. As it is, the art market does not serve its stakeholders in correlation to their contributions, role, or value in the supply chain. If it did, the stereotype of the starving artist would not exist. While my numbers are not empirical, based on my observations, I've estimated that the art world, as we've known it, really fails to serve approximately 80% of working independent contemporary artists. And of the 20% remaining, 80% of those artists will never be represented by a blue chip gallery. This can't be the only way. Numbers like these indicate a woefully inefficient industry with structural issues that must be addressed if artists are ever to earn a proper living, afford health care, etc. In other words, the art world is ripe for disruption and innovation. However, the art world establishment has no incentive to change the status quo. Artists must become change agents and accept responsibility for innovating a more equitable system because change simply won't happen otherwise. So, to empower artists and help change how business in the art world gets done, I now want to share the following business strategies and tactics that can help artists like you disrupt and improve the art world. Number one, we must understand the size of the creative economy and artists' vital role within that economy. I'm often surprised that artists don't understand how big the creative economy is. This notion of starving artists sort of comes from maybe this vision of scarcity, that there's not a lot of money in the art market or there's not a lot of money out there for artists. And that is simply not true. For years and years, we didn't have really any research or data to go from. But in 2015, for the first time ever, there was a study that calculated the value of the creative economy, the creative industries. And the study was powerful and very, very interesting and exhaustive and comprehensive. The study was done by very reputable organizations, the United Nations being one of them, in partnership with the Confederation of Authors and Composers Societies. The United Nations partnered with Ernst & Young, which is a global accounting firm of high credibility and notoriety. And they, along with several other organizations, partnered to do a global study of what they call the creative industries and what we can also call the creative economy. And I encourage you to look up this study. You can Google it. It's called Cultural Times, the first global map of cultural and creative industries. And it blew my mind for a lot of different reasons. For starters, they estimated, and again, this is the United Nations, Ernst & Young, and the Confederation of Authors, Composers, Societies. And based on their calculations, they estimated that the creative economy is worth $2 trillion to the global economy, that the creative industries contribute $2 trillion to the global economy. Now, that was in 2015. Obviously, with COVID going on, the economy is taking a dive, so these things have fluctuated and changed. But the basic point still remains that artists, designers, creative people are hugely important to the overall global economy and creative economy. So for anybody to act like artists don't contribute fundamental value or don't deserve to be paid a fair living wage, it's absolutely an ignorant position and a misinformed position, and it's flat wrong. And so if artists are going to become change agents and change how business gets done in the art world, it's really important for us and for you to understand just how powerful you are within this global economy. Now, how did the 2 trillion break out? Well, in this study, as you'll see when you search for it and find it and download it, the study was across 11 sectors, right, in the creative economy. So they consider these the creative industries. And this included television, visual arts, newspapers and magazines, advertising, architecture, books, performing arts, gaming, movies, music, and radio. Okay? So again, television, visual arts, newspaper and magazines, advertising, architecture, books, performing arts, gaming, movies, music, radio. These are the creative industries that creative people drive. Now, visual arts, according to this study, is worth $391 billion to the overall global economy. And that value, that money is created because of you, because of us as artists and creative people. So I really want you to understand this and know this, because this is critical for you to be able to stand up for who you are and what you do and negotiate from a place of strength and power and knowledge. And here's the other thing. When I looked at the study, I actually think that the creative economy at 2 trillion is underperforming. Because when I think about artists and creative people and their approach to business, listen, I've worked in the creative arts for 30 years. I understand how challenged artists and creatives can be around business. And we're not the best at it, applying and adhering and leveraging best business practices. We're not the best business people out there. We tend to lose money. We tend to get screwed. We tend to get in our own way sometimes because we don't know how to do business. So I think that this 2 trillion is actually underperforming. I actually think that this 2 trillion could be a lot more if we could be better business people, educate ourselves, and leverage our abilities to negotiate against our true value and worth in business and in the economy. Look, you think about places in the world, right? Whether it's Times Square in New York or name your beautiful place, but Times Square wouldn't exist without artists. Yeah, sure, capital and money built it, but capital and money couldn't do it without architects and designers and creative people. So it's a symbiotic relationship. It's a quid pro quo. And unfortunately, in this world, people with, as the saying goes, people with the gold make the rules. But artists can, if once we understand how powerful we are and how valuable we are in this creative economy, we can start advocating for ourselves and negotiating better and standing strong because we understand our value in the world. Number 2, we must use the best business practices to earn a living with our art. If you want to earn a living with your art and pay your bills by commercializing your art, you can't ignore or lament business. I know a lot of artists who say they want to earn a living with their art, but they complain about business. They complain about signing contracts. They complain about having to do their taxes. But this is all business 101. This is all part and parcel to the game. If you're going to be in the game, you've got to play by the rules of the game. I mean, if you don't want to earn a living as an artist, then you don't have to worry about making money. But as soon as you decide to be in business as an artist and earn a living from your art, you have to embrace best business practices. You can't have it both ways. We can't complain about being broke and business at the same time. If we're trying to earn a living and we're not doing a very good job of it, it's largely our fault, unless we're doing everything right, which most of us are not. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to imagine these things. Educate yourself. There are lots of books and websites and articles that can help inform you. It's called working smart. A lot of people ready, fire, aim. No, you got to ready, aim, fire, right? You've got to educate yourself. You've got to understand what your objectives are. You have to understand the rules of the game to win the game and play by the rules. I know so many artists that they say they want to earn a living from their art, but they don't want to sign a contract and they dread dealing with their taxes. Look, nobody likes to pay taxes. Nobody likes to deal with legalese and legal contracts and difficult contracts to read and so on and so forth. But these are the rules of the game. And so as soon as you choose as an artist to earn a living with your art, and if you truly are sincere about that and you truly want to earn a fair living wage with your art, you simply must embrace best business practices. Number 3, we must rigorously treat our artworks as proprietary intellectual property. Our intellectual property is our secret sauce, but we can only monetize it or leverage it if we truly own it. That means that we have to secure copyright protection for our artwork because it's our proprietary intellectual property. Big companies like Coca-Cola guard their formula under lock and key because they know that that is their secret sauce. That if anybody were to discover or steal their formula, their unique formula, that would significantly damage and hurt their business. It's the same thing with artists and art. Artists are innovators. They are inventors. We are inventors. We imagine and envision and create things out of thin air. We're like magicians. We literally pull rabbits out of hats. We see things other people can't see. This is our magic. This is our power. And we have to guard and protect our magic and power so that we can't be exploited, can't be taken advantage of, so that we can earn a living and make more money. But we can only monetize our intellectual property and earn a living from our intellectual property if we have secured copyright protection. For example, and we'll get into this maybe later, but licensing. You cannot license your artwork unless you have it properly protected. And because your artwork is your proprietary intellectual property, you not only want to secure it and protect it, but if you begin to think that way, your workflow and your process should adjust accordingly. So, for example, we have to start making copyright protection part of our practice. Yes, I know it's annoying to go onto the government website, but it doesn't take that long. 15, 20 minutes. The application is like 20, 30 bucks. Once you secure that, then you're protected. Then you have legal rights to sue for damages. There's a great article that we published on our website, notrealart.com, written by intellectual property attorney Joshua Wattles. And he goes into this very deeply. Joshua Wattles used to be the head attorney at DeviantArt, and he is an expert in intellectual property and copyright protection. There's a great article that he wrote on our website. I encourage you to go there, notrealart.com. The other thing that we have to start doing, if we begin to think of our artwork as proprietary intellectual property, then not only do we have to protect it as such, we have to begin to be rigorous about capturing high-res digital copies of the original. If we have a high-res digital copy, we can license that. We can use that in other ways. Not necessarily inexpensive or easy, but it's necessary. And it's better to have a high-res image, better than no image. Museum quality is a different story. You don't necessarily, museum quality is ideal. But if you can't do museum quality, at least capture the best high-res image of your original that you can and have that as part of your portfolio, your database, your library. Because if anybody ever comes to you and wants to license it, you have that image. So we must start rigorously treating our artwork as proprietary intellectual property to position ourselves in a stronger way to earn a living with our art. Number 4. We as artists must stop saying yes to for-profit entities who want our expertise for free. I am often amazed and shocked at the stories I hear of artists being asked to work for free, but more so, I'm amazed and shocked at the number of times artists agree to it. These companies entice us with illusions of grandeur, of great exposure for our work and for our name. And based on my observations, 9 out of 10 times, those promises rarely come to fruition. And if a for-profit entity asks you to work for free, it's insulting. You have to think of it as an insult. They would be insulted, of course, if they were asked to provide their expertise for free. And it is just flat wrong. And artists have to stand up against it. There was a meme that went by a while ago called exposure bucks. They'll pay you in exposure bucks. Well, you can't pay your rent with exposure bucks. And if a for-profit entity comes to you and they don't want to pay you for your expertise, then they truly don't respect you. And it's insulting, and you should be insulted, and you should say no. Now, that being said, of course, there are exceptions to the rule. The idea of a freebie or a free sample sometimes makes sense. In fact, it is a tried true business strategy. You can't go to Costco without being offered free samples. They do this because they know that That's a way of getting new customers. But here's the deal. They work that into their budget. It's paid for. It's a thoughtful strategy that they are adhering to, and they can afford to do it. You can't afford to do it half the time. And you have to be very judicious when you decide to give your expertise away from free. And I think you need to have a guideline, a policy that you can point to and say, I'm only amenable to providing one free project per quarter, 4 per year. And I'm just making up numbers, but you need to have an idea as to what you can afford. And yes, it does make sense. You have to do this sometimes, but you have to decide and weigh out the costs and the benefits and to see if the benefits outweigh the costs. Because here's the deal. When artists give their expertise away for free, when artists give their artwork away for free, and that becomes the rule rather than the exception, it devalues art and artists across the board. It makes it harder for everybody. And so when you decide to do something for free, you actually are making it harder for your fellow artist to earn a living. And we as artists have to stand up against this exploitation, because that's what it is. It's exploitation. When a for-profit entity, and many of these companies are publicly traded, they're worth billions of dollars, and they entice you with the promise of exposure, which rarely happens. And you have to stand up against this exploitation. I mean, does your dentist work on your teeth for free? Does your doctor not bill you? Of course not. Of course, other professionals, other experts charge for their time, and we don't get to get services for free, and we cannot provide our services for free. And so we have to wake up to the fact that this idea of exposure is a myth. It doesn't generally work. Yes, there are a few exceptions here and there, but they are few and far between. They are the exception, not the rule. They are incredibly rare. And so I strongly encourage you as artists, all artists, to promptly say no when for-profit entities ask you to work for free. Number 5, we must start making money in our sleep by monetizing our intellectual property rights. The problem with being an artist is that it's hard to earn a living if we're not on our feet making art. Making art is largely an effort of manual labor, and it is hard physical work sometimes, and we have to be on our feet working to make art. However, because we are in the intellectual property business, as we discussed prior, we have the unique opportunity to monetize that intellectual property. And when we license the rights to our intellectual property, that allows us to literally make money when we sleep, which is a brilliant way to earn a living, be more efficient, and multiply the value of our output without doing more work. We make it once, we sell it 10 times. We make it once, we sell it 20 times. This is the secret to earning a living and improving our income as artists. But it only works if we think of ourselves as being an intellectual property business, if we protect that copyright, own it outright, have a high-res digital capture of the art, and then begin to monetize the rights to our art. And so I encourage you as artists to embrace the intellectual nature of our property and securing the rights so that we can start making money while we sleep. Number 6, we must stop saying yes to for-profit galleries who only offer consignment sales. Now, look, I know this is a controversial, provocative idea because, of course, this is the way it's always done. God forbid we not do things differently, or God forbid we rock the boat as to the way things have always been done. But this goes back to the core of making the art world better for artists. This goes back to the core of helping artists earn a living. Because a huge reason why artists struggle is because we agree to consignment sales. And artists have to take the lead on this. Galleries are not going to offer this. It is not in their best interest to offer this. So we continue, generally speaking, and of course, if you're represented by a big gallery, blue chip gallery, what have you. It's a different ballgame. But I'm talking about working independent artists who are trying to make a living, trying to pay rent, trying to afford healthcare. And we agree to do a bunch of work and put it in a show, put it in a gallery, and hope that it sells, hope that we make money. And if it does, we split it 50-50 with the gallery. Now, I understand that the gallery does a lot and does a valuable service, but listen, in business generally, consignment sales is not how real business gets done. Real business gets done through wholesale pricing and buying product ahead of time, and the retailers mark it up and they work to sell it, and they work hard to sell it. And you as an artist have to cover your costs. You have to cover the cost of making your art. You have to cover the cost of living. And you cannot do that if you continue to agree to consignment sales. And I really hope that artists can begin to think about wholesale pricing, think about charging a certain price for the art up front so that you're covering your costs and you are able to make a little bit of profit. And guess what? If this were to happen, galleries would work so much harder to sell your work because they would have real skin in the game, more skin in the game. They would perform better because they would be accepting more of the risk. I personally think artists accept too much of the risk because we agree to consignment sales. You know, the old saying about put up or shut up, talk is cheap, put up or shut up. I mean, this is kind of what we're talking about here. If a gallery really believes in you and wants to help you, then they should pay for your art up front and still be able to make their money, mark it up moving forward. But this idea of consignment, it's really the purgatory of doing business. You don't want to be in purgatory. This is a provocative idea, I know, but it is absolutely something that I feel is essential for artists to begin doing to improve the art world and earn a fair living. Number 7, we must tell our story better and build relationships every chance we get. It's okay to be antisocial and hate networking. I get it, it's hard. I hate it too. But it's not okay to be inarticulate about our work when somebody asks us. I've seen artists literally clam up when somebody asks them about their work. And this is the moment where we should come to life and be emotional and passionate and articulate and compelling about our story and about our work, because this is who we are and what we do. And when somebody asks us, we should get excited about that. And you don't have to be a social butterfly. You don't have to be an extrovert. You just have to be articulate about your work when someone asks. And we have to, the old saying about never stop selling, I would rephrase that. I would say never stop telling. Never stop telling your story, because we ultimately own responsibility for our story and we have to tell it. And in the past, historically, we've relinquished that responsibility to art dealers and galleries to tell our stories for us so we don't have to. But moving forward, if we're going to make a better art world, if we're going to earn a living for ourselves, we have to own our story and do a better job of telling it and building relationships every chance we get. Love them or loathe them, Jeff Koons has been a great salesman over the years. Arguably, he's a much better salesman than artist. However, we all have an inner Jeff Koons. Let's channel our inner Jeff Koons. If he can do it, we can do it. And it's important for us to be able to tell our story and to be able to sell our story so we can sell our work. Because if we don't believe in us, nobody else is going to believe in us, right? If we don't believe in ourselves, nobody else is going to believe in us. So it's unfair, but it's true. Success many times in life, and I've worked in the creative arts for 30 years, I've seen it happen. Success many times comes down to the quality of your relationships and who you know, which is exactly why if we're going to build a better art world and earn a living for ourselves, we must tell our story better and build relationships every chance we get. Number 8, we must grow demand for original art. It's the other elephant in the room. The truth is, supply of original art outstrips demand. And this imbalance in our marketplace really makes it hard for artists to earn a living. Now, we're never going to control supply. We're never going to get artists to stop making art. Although we do understand scarcity and exclusivity can increase value and make things more valuable because they're more in demand. But the reality is we're not going to control supply of art at scale, but we can grow demand for original art. We can do this. The art world, the art market has done a horrible job of increasing demand for original art, but it's been intentional. Of course, they don't want to grow demand for original art because in many ways it would hurt their business models because their business model is built on scarcity and keeping prices high. But the truth of the matter is, if artists are going to earn a living and if we're going to make the art world a better place, we have to do a better job to grow demand for original art. And a big part of this is about democratizing art and empowering people to feel welcome in the art world and feel comfortable in the art world. Largely, I think majority of people feel intimidated and turned off by the art world, and they stay away. And of course, we as artists don't want that. We want our art on as many walls and in many homes, giving joy to as many people as possible. So if we're going to change the art world and earn a living moving forward, we need to do a better job of increasing demand for original art. And how do we do this? The creative arts need to be supported in mass media, just like sports or politics. I mean, given our economic power, we're $2 trillion to the global economy, the creative industries. And yet we don't really have support from the mass media. And so we as artists, first and foremost, have to be the change we want to see. We have to promote this and advocate for this. But as a world, as an industry, as a marketplace, we have to do a better job of promoting demand for original art. Industries promote their products. The dairy industry promotes buying milk. Remember the Got Milk campaign? Well, can you imagine if there was a Got Art campaign? What would that do for art sales, for artists? And so I also think that support of the creative arts and mass media would also help address arts education. And if we do a better job of educating people about art, we're going to increase sales over time. This is a huge elephant in the room that we've got to address, because as long as supply outstrips demand, we are not going to be able to earn a good living. So what can be done? Well, imagine a talk radio station dedicated to the arts. Imagine the Not Real Art channel on Sirius XM or on Pandora or on Apple Radio, where you can go and listen to all kinds of shows about art and architecture and design. Sure, podcasts do that. And of course, our podcast, Not Real Art, does that. But we need a more concerted effort to promote original art, buying original art, embracing original art, because ultimately a mass market strategy, a mass media strategy will help empower people to buy original art, make the art world a better place, and help us earn a living. Number 9, we must start developing the mass market for original art. If artists are going to earn a living, we must develop the mass market for original art. Historically, art has been a luxury item. Price points have been incredibly high. Most people cannot afford luxury items that cost a lot of money. Most people cannot afford high-end art. However, there's way more original art out there, priced between $100 and $5,000, and way more people to buy that art than $5,000 and above or $10,000 and above. And the art world's not incentivized to develop the mass market, and artists have struggled as a result of it. There's also, I think, this feeling that the average Joe doesn't understand art, doesn't like art, doesn't want art, and that's just offensive and wrong, condescending and elitist. You know, it's interesting. The so-called wall decor industry, the wall art industry, the home decor industry is a $8 billion business. Think about that. The quote unquote artwork and prints and various decorative items that we can buy at Bed Bath & Beyond or Target, for example, that's an $8 billion marketplace. Now, I'm convinced that 1% to 3% of that marketplace would be willing to spend several $100s or a few $1,000s on original art if they were given the chance or had the opportunity. Think about this. If we could convert 1% to 3% of the wall art market that's about $60-70 million that would suddenly go into artists' pockets. And yet we've ignored the development and the nurturing of the mass market for original art. And these folks are buying mass produced pieces and prints for their homes when they could be buying original limited edition art from artists in their community. And so, what's the barrier to entry? What's happening? Well, we've just ignored the mass market. And so, artists have to begin promoting and advocating the need to nurture the mass market so that we can start converting some of these folks over from the wall art home decor market into the original art market. And to do that, we must demystify buying art and empower regular folks to buy art, break down these barriers, truly democratize art, and make original art made by working independent artists available to folks that would typically go to Bed Bath & Beyond or Target. And so it is imperative, if we're going to make the art world a better place and earn our living as artists, that we start developing the mass market for original art. Number 10, we must embrace product segmentation and tiered pricing. You know, the financial savvy among us know that they need to diversify their investments, diversify their risk. This is what protects them when things go south and helps them when the market goes up. And artists can learn from this as well. We must diversify our product offerings, and we must offer a diverse range of price points. Because building on everything I've been saying, offering different price points for different parts of the segment is a best business practice. It allows us to nurture the mass market. It allows us to make art more accessible and democratize it. It allows us to earn a living and make the art world a better place. And if you're not really familiar with product segmentation or tiered pricing, let me give you a really simple example to help you think about it. Now, I don't know about you, but I love a good whiskey. And Johnnie Walker is one of my favorite brands. And Johnnie Walker does a fantastic job of product segmentation and tiered pricing. They have a range of products and prices that allow me to enjoy Johnnie Walker if I don't have a lot of money or if I do have a lot of money. So, for example, Johnnie Walker Blue. Now, that is a high-end whiskey that Johnnie Walker offers. It's a luxury item. It's $200 a bottle, and it's delicious, but I can't afford it. But I've had it, and I love it. And that is a $200 bottle. That is a luxury item that most people can't afford. But they offer it because some people can, and it also creates a halo effect for them in terms of quality and exclusivity, etc. But they also have Johnnie Walker Red, which is a $20 bottle that most people can't afford. And it's also delicious. And they have a few labels in between. For example, Johnnie Walker Black, that's in the middle. That's sort of priced in there, $50-$60, something like this. And they offer this range because they want to make their products available to as many people as possible. And artists can learn from this. Artists can think about their art in this way. We can create original, one-of-a-kind paintings that cost thousands of dollars that most people can't afford, but give us that luxury item. But we can also create smaller artworks, prints, other kinds of artworks that are far more inexpensive, that are $100 or $500 or a couple $100 or $50. And this way, we are diversifying. This way, we are democratizing our art. We're giving people the chance to own our art and have art in our lives, but it also increases our ability to earn a living and make the art world a better place. Now, as I wrap this up, I've just shared 10 business strategies and tactics artists like you can use to disrupt and improve the art world, earn a better living, and eradicate the notion of the starving artist. There are many more strategies and tactics I could share, but I'll stop here. I realize these ideas may be provocative or radical within the context of the contemporary art world or to someone unfamiliar with business, practice, or culture, but these 10 ideas are all rooted in best business practices. And if we artists want to be in business and earn a living by selling our art, we must embrace best business practices. As I said earlier, if Uber, Airbnb, and Netflix can innovate, disrupt, and improve their well-established legacy industries, artists can work together to innovate, disrupt, and improve the art world. Interestingly, anyone who may doubt this approach is likely threatened by it because they do not want to change the status quo. But if you have any questions whatsoever about what I've shared and the strategies and tactics I've been discussing, feel free to DM me through Instagram at Not Real Art World. Now, as I conclude this video, I want to thank you for watching, and I want to thank the city of Santa Clarita again for this amazing opportunity. I sincerely hope this video has been informative and inspiring to you. What's more, I hope you incorporate the information in this video into your arts and business practice so you and artists everywhere can earn a better living, make the art world a better place, and rise to new heights. Thank you.